All right, so it's about 5 minutes later than I wanted to do it, but hello and welcome to not a brand new episode of Dylan Knows. Dylan Knows is the other show I do here on YouTube. For those who don't know me, my name is Dylan Lang. I have a YouTube show called Dylan Knows, been doing it for 10 years now. I also do a secondary show, which I call Conversations with Myself, which I do whenever I damn well feel like it. And today is one of those days I decided I damn well felt like it. And the reason is pretty interesting. If you guys have been watching, reading my feed, if you follow me on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, you will see that I posted a couple of things about this today. On December 8th, 1993, exactly 30 years ago today, myself, Patrick Gibbs, and Eric Magnuson created a cult classic premiered a cult classic short film that we made for our Albright College film course, taught by Professor Gary Adelstein, passed away, I believe either earlier this year or last year, and got some good takes on it. It was a fun little thing we did, and sort of went off on its own, and then flash forward to 2011, Pat let me know for a special Halloween treat that he posted the movie onto Facebook. And then last year, a Scottish band called Storm the Palace, who's friends with Pat, asked if they could use the movie for their new music video, Ragnar. And Pat, after getting our permission to do so, said yes. Didn't get paid for it. Just say, we'll do it as a favor for you. It's fine. And this is the oral history of the classic short film, Albright College Squirrels. You can find Albright College Squirrels on YouTube by typing in Albright College Squirrels. It should be one of the first ones popping up there. It's a 6-minute, 6-second video. So you really can't miss it. Oral histories basically are just detailing behind the scenes stuff and how things worked and stuff like that. I figured for the 30th anniversary, may as well decide to do this. I'm sort of winging it, don't have any notes, just trying to remember stuff that I did. The genesis of the idea came from Albright College. Albright College is a liberal arts college up in Reading, Pennsylvania. I graduated from it in 1995. I believe Pat also graduated in 95. I think Eric was about a year behind us. I think he graduated in 96. We decided to take a film class in Pat and I's junior year, and I believe it was Eric's sophomore year. And we had Professor Gary Adelstein who was teaching it. And we all enjoyed film. We had been friends since 1992 when we met. We lived in the same dorm. And think about that a second. Eric would have had to have been the same age as us. I don't remember him graduating, though, with us because he was in Moan with us in 92 also. And that was only for upperclassmen. So if we were sophomores when Pat and I got into Moan, Eric would have had to have been a sophomore at least. I just remember him graduating with us. Oh, well, it doesn't matter. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked here, but I might be doing that a lot lately, doing this because that's what oral history is, basically just telling us about it. So in 1993, fall of 1993, we had, as I said, we became friends in 92. And in 1993, we took over a whole wing of our dorm, Moan Hall, where we had the RA's office, the RA's room, and then we had another person's room, and then Pat, his room. He had a roommate, and I think the roommate left after a while. I think he ended up having a single for the rest of the year. I don't remember. Then the Erics, Eric Magnuson, Eric A. now, were in the next room, and myself and Brian Fry were in the next room next to that, and our friend Bood was in the room in the single right there. So we had a whole L-shaped section that was all of our stuff. And it was, exactly what we expected. It was a hangout. We had the doors open all the time. People were going in and out of the dorm rooms, hanging out in each other's dorm rooms. Mostly, we hung out mostly in the Eric's room, and occasionally in our room. Pat's room, not so much, but the Eric's room mostly was pretty good because they had these loft bunks that they had created, so they had a big open space below. Now the Erics were really big into computers. Now this is 1993, so the computers were still not quite as either powerful or as regular that everybody could have one, whatever. But we had a computer lab, and Eric and Eric though were computer guys, so they had computers in their room. They were doing computer stuff in there, and that comes into play a little bit later. So we all had this whole room. So we decided we were going to take a film class because we had, over the course of 92 to 93, we became friends because of our interest in filmmaking and film and stuff like that. So our junior year, we decided to take a filmmaking course, as I said, taught by Professor Gary Adelstein. The only one available at Albright College. It's not a film school, but that's okay. At that time, I knew I kind of wanted to do some directing, movie directing like that. I had been doing some acting, had been in some plays my freshman and junior year, freshman and sophomore year. So we took over that section. We decided we were going to take this film course. So we get taught, basically this is actual film course. There was no digital cameras at that time. We were taught how to use the handheld movie cameras that used actual film. And so that was part of the class, was how to use them. And then Professor Adelstein then showed us how to use the editing scissor thing, cutting the razor blade scissor thing. And I guess he taught us how to add sound, because we'd have sound on the movie as well. I very rarely remember much about the class itself. I remember after he taught us how to use the camera, how to load it and how to shoot it and stuff like that, he sent all of us out to film with like a couple reels of film for all three of us to try filming different wings. You could do fast forward, you could do slow motion, stuff like that. So Pat, Eric, and I, who were all friends already, we became a group, and then we headed up to, there's a pagoda at the top of Mount Penn, and we shot some stuff there and shot some stuff driving down because Eric had a car. And so we did that. We did some stuff, played around with that. So we did pretty good at that, and we learned how to edit and do stuff like that. So it was fun. So for our final project, obviously we had to make a film. It's a film course. You're going to have to do it. It has to be a short film. Obviously, you're not going to make a hour and a half, 2 hour long movie. At the most, I think he said 6 minutes at the most, 6 or less minutes for this, for our special short film. And then the final project will be due by the specific date, because on December 8th, 1993, which was a Wednesday, we were going to have the first annual Albright College Film Festival, where everybody in the class, who would split up into groups of 3, so everybody in the class split up into groups of 3 again, would show their movie in front of a live audience to see how it reacted. Now, we were all there. Professor Adelstein was there, and then it was a experience event, from what I recall. Experience events were events that we did at college where you had to have a certain amount to graduate, and you would go and learn different things, go to certain different events, and this was one of them, I think. So we had to come up with an idea. Now, we were given this project, I want to say in October, because it was going to take time to film, to edit, I guess somehow, as I said, lay down the sound. Again, I really don't know how we did that, but here we are, and get it ready for the December 8th debut. So, yes, Eric and Pat and I decided to become a group, because we were already friends. We were all living right next to each other. So we started kicking around ideas about what we wanted to do. Now, we kind of figured that, first and foremost, film is an art style. It was an art credit that we took at school. So it is an art style. And no style is correct. And so we were thinking, because Professor Adelstein. I keep on calling him Gary. I don't remember if he allows calling by his first name. Professor Adelstein. He was very into the artistic aspects of filmmaking. He didn't show us very many regular films, which we were kind of expecting, because he taught us how to shoot film and stuff like that, but would show us other films and see how other people did it. But his was mostly more of an artistic scale, and he showed us some of his own artistic films that he made as well. And all of them were these artsy, I don't want to say artsy farce because it makes it sound bad, but just these kind of just really, just about the vision, the visionary, the pictures, the way you shoot, stuff like that, the color, stuff like that. It was mostly about that. So we were pretty much under the assumption that most people in the class were going to go with maybe something like that, maybe. And we wanted to go completely different because we were a bunch of guys that just liked hanging out and doing crazy stuff. And we got to talking. And the one thing you need to know about Albright College is that we have an insane amount of squirrels on campus. They are so tame that you could sit on one of the benches there. They'll jump up on the bench next to you and just look at you until you feed them, or just walk around you, not run away from you. They're not afraid of you at all. And there's a ton of them. So we decided, let's make a squirrel movie. Now, obviously, we can't. I think one of our original ideas was, we're just going to, shoot a bunch of squirrels running around and doing stuff, and then we'll make a little bit of fighting each other, something like that. I was like, no, that's going to take a little bit of time to do that. So then we decided, how about we do like a giant killer squirrel type of thing? And at the time, there was a mall not that far from us, and Eric, Pat, and I jumped into Eric's car, and he drove us up to the mall. And this was like 93 was like big time mall era. There was a movie theater, there was a comic book store, there was a record store, there was a toy store, there were clothing stores, a food court, everything under department stores, everything under the sun you could think of. And we went to the toy store. I think it was KB Toys. And we found a giant stuffed squirrel that we named Rabies. Why not? So we bought him, and he was going to be the star of our movie. So then we started trying to kick around ideas about what we wanted to do. I don't remember exactly which of the three of us came up with the idea, but it was a process where we all worked together and discuss these ideas. And one of us came up with the ideas like, why don't we just like shoot a bunch of stuff with the squirrels like we were planning on doing anyway. And that could be like the beginning of the film. And then we can segue into having the giant squirrel go around and like attacking our friends and killing them. And that's great. And was like, that's a great idea. And I think Pat was the one that came up with the idea that, we were going to, we'd all come with the idea of let's go have him attack our friends. But I think it was Pat's idea at the end to say the last 3 kills should be us since we're the directors. And then he said, and this is how, because we all have to shoot the film, not just one person. One person's not going to shoot it. One person's not going to act in it. One person's not going to do the sound. It's a collaborative effort. We all had to shoot film. We all had to act in it. We all had to do everything involved with it. We couldn't just say, you do this, you do that, you do that. No, it was a collaborative thing. We all had to do everything. So I think it was Pat's idea. I said, okay, this is how we're going to do it. Okay. I will film Dylan's murder. Dylan, you can film Eric's murder, and Eric, you can film my murder. And we then had to come up with ideas about what we were going to do for our murders, for the murders of our friends and stuff like that. So again, just kicking around ideas and stuff like that. And I think some of them we just did on the fly also. So I believe we chose a day either in late October or early November. It wasn't late November and it wasn't September. It was I think it was sometime in October, but later October because it was a little bit chilly. And if you watch the movie, you'll see us in coats and our friends in coats also. But you will also see that the colored leaves were still there. And I think we filmed the squirrels over a couple of weekends, but the actual time of attacking all of our friends and our murders as well, I think we were all going to shoot in one day. And I think that's what we ended up doing on a Saturday or Sunday, one of those two. When there wasn't a lot of people on campus, because obviously during the week we really couldn't film anything because the students are walking back and forth to classes, teachers, professors walking back and forth to classes, stuff like that. So we chose one of the weekends where there was no like homecoming and no big events like that, just a typical regular weekend. That's why I think it was like sometime in October. It was after homecoming and was just sort of somewhere in there, late October, early November. And we just, sort of gather our friends, because we had a group of friends, and we said, and they knew what we were doing. And so they said, hey, we want to kind of do some of this stuff. So we were just grabbing people at random to say, hey, can we do this? Hey, can we do this? Like this. And they said, yeah, they want to do that for that. So we just started, shooting out ideas left and right to do this and that. And that's how those came about. One of the this is more personal, and one of the people who didn't actually get killed, but there's a scene where she's being chased and you can see her running, was, I wouldn't say his girlfriend, but it was an ex-friend with benefits, I should say, from 1992. We were still friends, so we asked her to be in it. She said sure, so we did that in 93. And then we had some of our really close friends in the scene where the two ladies were lying on the ground, and our friend Heath was saw them, and then Rabies, the underdwelling squirrel, which is the name of the squirrel, comes flying in and hits him. Those were our closest friends. And then we had other close friends too. Chili was in there. She's the one that we have the squirrel come up behind her and she starts getting attacked by, which is one of the funniest and one of the greatest attacks in our movie, to be honest. And I can't remember the names of the other. I think Jeff was the name of one of them, of the guy who shook his hands like this and then ran away. I want to say Josh was the first one, or either Josh was the first one, or maybe they're both Joshes. The Josh was the first one, and then the Josh in the mailbox, I think, was another one. That was more Pat's friend. I didn't really know him that well, but I knew the other Josh, who's the first kill we have. So I think we filmed all of the murders in one day, including our own also, I believe. And our murders were the best. We'll talk about those in a second, but I just started thinking about some other stuff. So we also, I don't know if we filmed this stuff the same day or we did it the next day or whatever, but I remember we had to come up with some other stuff. And somewhere in there, we all decided we needed some sort of narration about what was going on, because we had the movie starting off with a bunch of squirrel shots. And then we needed some narration to explain what was going on with Rabies. So they tasked me, like, Dylan, why don't you go ahead and write just something real quick. So I jotted down the lines you actually hear in the film. And I don't think I intended to make them rhyme, but I guess I kind of did. And so I wrote those down, and we had a statue on campus of Jacob Albright, who was the founder of Albright College. And he's right in the center of, right by the chapel. And there's this whole other stuff around him, including this fruit, for the fruit of knowledge, it says knowledge on the bottom. So we had come up with the idea that Rabies, our underdwelling stuffed giant squirrel, was an angry squirrel who jumped out of his hiding space, which I'll tell you about that in a second too, and attacked the first thing that he thought was flesh, which was the statue of Jacob Albright. And then he ate from the tree of knowledge, which is those berries that has knowledge on there, and he became like sentient and started attacking our friends. And that's where the movie shifts from being about just squirrels running around to a squirrel attacking people. Now that whole sequence, filming that was really funny, because we were trying to figure out how we were going to get Rabies onto campus. And we found this like sewer hole with a graded sewer on it somewhere near the chapel. Actually, I believe it's right near the chapel, near the front of the college. And I have to say, it had to have been Pat's bright idea that he was able to pull the grading off of this hole. And he jumped into it when he looked down to see what it was. I don't think there was water in it. Maybe there was. I don't know. But he jumped into it and it wasn't too deep, and it wasn't, and I think we helped him get out also eventually, but he had rabies with him. So we had the grate slightly askew, and Pat had rabies pull the grate aside and then throws him out of the hole. And you can actually see Pat's hands as he's flinging rabies up there. I believe it's Pat. It could have been Eric, but I think it's Pat because I think Eric was filming it. Or I could have been filming it. Again, it gets kind of hazy who filmed what. There are certain things I do know that I filmed, and there are certain things I know that I think Pat and Eric both filmed also. So then we get to the statue of Jacob Albright, and we have to have him, rabies, attack the statue. And that's me behind Jacob Albright moving rabies around. You can see me periodically also pop up in the shots as well. And I think also I was the one that had him eating from the tree of knowledge or from the fruit of knowledge. So that was kind of funny. So we did that. That was a fun thing. Let me see if there's anything else. And then we did our killings, or did our murders. And Pat, I think for the most part, had always wanted to do like one of those sort of supervillain, superhero standoff sort of things. So he said, "Why don't you do that, Dylan?" So we set up the storyline where I'd be just walking down the road, and then I would stop, and there's rabies, and we'd have like this close up staring at each other, and then rabies comes flying up at me again. Either Eric, it had to have been Eric because Pat was filming me. So Eric flung rabies up at me, and I had to catch him. I think it took me 1 or 2 tries to get it done. But I think I got it in maybe 2 tries to catch rabies and then have him attacking me. And I think the attacking sequence was the only one we did from what I recall. We might have changed up a little bit because there is that close up of me as well. We might have shot a couple of other different angles of it as well. But I only remember rolling down the hill once, which is what happens with my murder. Rabies attacking me, and then I roll down the hill, and then I'm face down, and you see the back of rabies like he's munching on my brain, and you see his tail moving back and forth. That was me. You can tell my hands are there, but you don't know exactly what is going on. But I have it hidden enough that I'm moving the tail with my fingers so that looks like it's moving. That was fun to shoot. And then we had to come up with an idea for Eric. And again, don't know whose idea it was I think it was Eric's actually idea. I think he said that he wanted to be hung. Now, obviously you can't do that because, you're not going to hang your friend, literally. So we had to figure out something to do. So somehow we stumbled upon some rope. And I think Pat tied this. It might have even been Eric who tied the hoop really loose, but enough that it looked like that because I was filming, so I really couldn't do anything about it. I think Pat was behind me while I was filming. So as I was filming, Pat, I think, flings the noose around Eric's throat. You see Eric reach up there, and he's making sure he's not choking, but making it look like he's choking. He's not, which is great. And so I really liked how that turned out. I think it was my idea to say, why don't we look like he's coming around to attack Eric? And there was a little concern. I think Pat's one of his concerns was, well, you're kind of tall, and if we take from the perspective of rabies and it comes tall and then becomes small again, it's not going to look right. And we both looked at Pat as like, it's a giant stuffed squirrel attacking Eric. And I think we can say we made up like maybe he was climbing down a tree or something like that. And that was his perspective because they couldn't see behind us. They didn't know what was behind us. So Pat was like, yeah, whatever, let's just do it. So we did. And then it was Eric's idea that he wanted to be he wanted to be the one hanging. So, but we had to show him being hung from the tree. But again, you couldn't have the noose around his neck. So somehow I think you had to make it look like he was drifting back and forth. So I think he got up on his tiptoes, and because we needed to find a big enough branch to make it look like he was being hung and moving around. So he was up on his tiptoes, I think. And it was loose enough that it was, him moving around, looked like he was getting hung. So That was funny. And then the Pat's death, which is the end of the film. The cross country team has competitions during the fall season, and they must have just had one because the giant finish line was still painted in the spray paint that dissipates eventually through rain and other stuff as well. It doesn't ruin the grass. And Pat saw that as like, okay, this is going to be the last shot of the film because you can have me dead over the eye of finish, and I want to be choking on nuts because why else not? We had lots of nuts gathered around there. So Pat, in his wisdom, decided to take these nuts that he found off the ground. I don't think we even washed them. I think he just stuffed them in his mouth and and made it look like he was, that rabies had stuffed enough nuts in his mouth to choke him to death. And Pat was lying on the finish line across the eye, and you couldn't tell right away because Eric was doing this wavy shoot of Pat's body before you could see what caused his death. And then you get a close-up of the face, and then you pull back, and Pat's right on the finish line, and that's finished at the end of the film. And that was a really good shot. I like that shot of Eric's a lot. So that was the film. So we as I said, we shot the squirrel stuff over a couple of days and a couple of weekends here early on. And then I think we shot all of our friends' stuff in one day. And then we did some of the ancillary stuff like the next day. Like it was like if we shot our friends' stuff on Saturday, on Sunday, we did the other stuff as well. So then we had to sit down. We had to edit all the stuff because we shot a ton of stuff. And a lot of it wasn't going to turn out really good because, squirrels move fast and we wanted to get some doing good. And we either didn't get a good close up of them or they were moving too fast. You couldn't tell exactly what was going on with them. And then we had another issue. When we were developing the film, because this was actual rolls of film that we had to develop. Somehow it might have been a whole reel actually, had this green, what's the best way to describe it? Green fog on it is the only thing I could think of. And that was from, I believe, the developing fluid. Either we put too much in or not enough in or something like that. So it ruined a ton of our shots on that reel. And so I think we weren't going to use any of that because of it. But then we looked at it a couple of times, so there were some usable shots, and we think it might be cool to have that sort of green sort of thing to affect some emotional whatever. So I think we were going to keep some of it, but we weren't. It's like we just can't use a lot of it because it just looked bad. So we looked at some of the other footage, and just there really wasn't a lot of good stuff from the clear footage. Now there were some surprises, some really good ones we got. We got the good one, the good shot of the squirrel with his tail, and the sunlight is right behind him, and it's flashing like that. That's in the film. That's a really good shot. The one shot of the squirrel running is clear as day. That was another really good shot as well. And we had some other really good shots of the squirrels in there. The one of the squirrel crawling into his hole in the tree, I shot that one. I remember that. And I also shot the shot of the faraway zoom of the squirrel nest in the trees. I shot that as well. Those are the two I remember most that I shot. I think Pat and Eric shot some of the other best stuff, and there was some really good stuff, but we ended up having to use some of the green tinted film because there was some good shots in there. And the green tinted film gave it some interesting flavor to it. And we needed to fill the gaps in time as well. So we ended up doing that. And now looking at it on YouTube, the first couple scenes of the film, it looks bad on YouTube. And I don't know, I guess it looked better on film, but the transfer onto YouTube just did not look good. So when you watch the film, it's 6 minutes, 6 seconds. Just wait. Just get through the first couple minutes. You're not going to be able to see a lot of the stuff in there. I mean, I can't see it on my phone. Maybe if you're looking at it on the computer or whatever, it might show up a little better, but it's kind of grainy. It's hard to tell exactly what it was because this was uploaded back in 2011, but we'll get that in a little bit. So we did that, and then we had to do the sound. Now, I'm not sure how we did the sound, but I do know that one, they asked me to write the narration, and I did. And then they asked me to narrate it because I had done acting before. So they said, why don't you go ahead and just do that? It's in your wheelhouse. So like, sure, why not? So I did that. And then we wanted to lay down some other special sound effects and music and stuff like that. Now, Pat's a big indie music guy, and he loves Lou Reed and all kinds of stuff like that. And he had found this piece that Lou Reed had done, which was basically, I think he recorded seagulls squawking, because that's what it sounds like to me. He recorded these seagulls squawking and sort of laid that over to sort of give you that sort of feeling of a threat, because it's a very creepy sound, very creepy feeling, very threatening sort of thing. And it's really quite cool when you listen to it. So we laid that down. Again, I think the computer has something to do with it, because I kind of remember them working on some stuff on the computer, and somehow, I can't remember how we laid it down. That's something maybe Pat or Eric could tell you about, but I couldn't tell you. But I know we recorded that. And also because it was a giant sort of kaiju sort of creature, giant squirrel attacking people, we wanted to do kind of a Godzilla thing also, which was kind of one of these people running away from stuff like that, like they do in the Godzilla movies. We want to do kind of our own sort of version of Godzilla. And so they asked if I had like maybe any Godzilla movies. They knew I had a lot of movies, or anything with like a Japanese people talking or whatever. And luckily, somehow, I don't even know why I would have this, because I couldn't understand. It wasn't subtitled and it wasn't dubbed. I had a copy on video cassette. This is 1993. A copy on video cassette of Miyazaki's Castle in the Sky in the original Japanese. And I looked through it, and I think they were watching with me, and we picked out a few spots that we liked. And then we, again, somehow, I think using the computer or whatever, we were able to isolate certain phrases in the Castle in the Sky Japanese language film. And they were able to take them out and put it into the Squirrel movie. So yes, the Japanese voices you hear in the background is from Miyazaki's Castle in the Sky. Yes, it's blows my mind too, but it's Miyazaki being as popular as he is now. I find it really funny that we actually used bits and pieces of his movie in our movie, our little movie. So when we were doing the laying down of the sound, I believe this was like about a week or so before, or a couple days before our film festival, because on a lark, we decided to sing a Christmas song about rabies to the tune of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. We could have been drunk when we were doing it as well. We decided we thought it was something silly. So we recorded this video of us singing, "Rabies, the underdwelling squirrel, lived in a sewer hole," and something. Then other squirrels never let him eat their nuts. Then one something day he ate from the tree of knowledge and stuff like that. It was he'll go down in infamy sort of thing. It was hilarious. It was great. So we added that as like a mid-credit sequence. And then at the end credits, I think this was Pat's idea again. He decided to take Arnold Schwarzenegger's "I'll Be Back" and repeat it, because we thought, hey, monster movies, we never saw rabies die, because he just killed people and then disappeared. And maybe we'd make a sequel someday. So as the movie, after we filmed Pat's death and we get to the finish line and pull back, you can hear "I'll be back, I'll be back, I'll be back" as we run the credits, like, written, directed by these guys, and thanks to all our friends, blah blah blah. And then it just kept repeating, "I'll be back, I'll be back, I'll be back" for about a minute, maybe a minute and a half, and then it cuts into the rabies. The underdwelling squirrel lived in a sewer hole, and the other squirrels wouldn't let them eat their nuts. Then one something day, he ate from the tree. I can't remember who the actual song was, so it made it on there. And the film was finally done. And so December 8th, 1993, we had our film festival. Now, they didn't give out awards because this was just a film festival just to show off our finished product. I like to say that we won the viewer award because the people who, and we had a lot of people. We had the full house. The most people, I think, reacted most to ours, laughing and cheering and stuff like that. And the only ones I remember one of the other ones was about like a drunk driving storyline. So they had a story as well, but it was more depressing. And I think the other ones were kind of more artsy. But it was really cool seeing our film because the way where the film festival was, it was a small room. It was probably could seat about maybe, it was the AV room, could seat about maybe 40 people, if that, maybe 50. And we had the big screen. It was arched like a cinema, so it was going downhill, and then there was a big screen up there, and then they would project the movies on there. Now, this is just a side note. Every Friday, they would run at 6:30. They would run movies in that same room, but it was a projection TV. They would put video tapes in and show a recent popular movie like a Groundhog Day or something like that, which came out in '92, stuff like that. What was the other one? Reality Bites, which was the one where me and my senior year girlfriend declared our affection for each other. So they projected onto the big screen, and it was really kind of cool to see it. And as I said, I like to say that we won the audience award because the audience really, really enjoyed our movie a lot. So we got A, obviously, and that was that. Now, Pat had the film roll of our finished film, and he had rabies also. And when we graduated senior year, he asked if he could keep them. And I was like, that's fine. I wasn't going to, I really didn't need anything. It was fine. You can go ahead and do it. So he kept rabies and he kept the film reel. So he ended up going out to Seattle. Rumors are, I don't know if Pat can verify this or not, but rumors are that since Pat had the reel, he frequented these sort of underground film festivals and stuff like that. And he actually showed our film to a few people in the underground Seattle underground film groups. Again, that's one story I'm going to keep telling until it's told that it didn't happen, because I had heard that it happened. I think from Pat told me that, or Eric or someone told me that a couple of years after we graduated, because we still kept in contact a little bit. It was right before social media really took off. And then you fast forward to early to mid 2000s, and found a little bit what's going on, but not having so much. And then social media blows up, MySpace, Facebook, all that stuff comes up, and reconnect with Pat and Eric and stuff like that. And we're discussing all kinds of stuff like that. And so we reconnect and stuff like that. So flashback a little bit. So after we made the film in '93, since Pat said, is it okay if he took the actual film? We said, yeah, because I forgot to mention this, because he was able to find a place that, there are places out there that do this. It takes real films and puts them on video cassettes. So he made video cassettes for all three of us. He got one, Eric got one, I got one. So I had a video cassette of our movie. And I think I still have it probably in the back there somewhere. I should have dug it out and showed it off to everybody. But yeah, I still have the video cassette version of it. I don't have a VCR anymore, but I do have the video copy of it, and that's why I said it was okay for for Pat to take the film, because we had the actual film in the video cassette. So then, fast forward again to 2011. Working at Hanover Uniform, which is where I'm still working now, and it was the year we were moving. We were moving to a new facility in November of 2011. So this is October 2011, and I'm at my desk, and it's Halloween, and I'm just sort of, at break time, it's my lunch break, so I'm just looking online and doing stuff, and I get a message on Facebook, I think, from Pat that said, "Hey, click here." So I click here, and it's a link that takes us to YouTube. He has uploaded the Squirrel movie to YouTube. I was like, "Oh, this is awesome," because I haven't watched the video cassette, because it's 2011 now, so video cassettes are sort of gone the way of the dodo. It's like, oh, this is awesome. This is great. So he had downloaded to YouTube and got it up there. It's like, okay, that's great. So I watched. I showed off to some of my friends at work and stuff like that. And it was great. It's like, now I could show whoever wanted to see it. I called my family and said, hey, my Albright College Squirrel movie's back up. Go check it out again. I think we got a good 100 or so hits that day that it came out. So again, like fast forward about a year or so later, and I get word, like a DM or something from Pat, saying that, not being sued, but that Lou Reed's group has filed a copyright lawsuit against us. Maybe not lawsuit, but a copyright infringement on us for using his music without his permission. So I think Pat handled all that aspect of it, and it doesn't matter. He was able to solve the case with it, because the music is still there. But it was kind of an interesting thing that Lou Reed actually and his people put a copyright notice on us, which is kind of funny. I thought it was kind of funny. So that was kind of neat. So again, showed it to my kids, watched it periodically, whatever. And I think about it fondly, because it was a good memory. And sometimes I go back and look at it periodically. But I hadn't really watched it too much in a while. And then last year, 2022, Pat, who has been spending a lot of time in Edinburgh, Scotland, sent me a Facebook messenger saying, hey, I'm over here in Edinburgh with some friends hanging out. And this Edinburgh, I was hanging out with this band called Storm the Palace, Edinburgh band there, and he was hanging out with them and talking, whatever. And he mentioned the Squirrel movie, and they asked to see it, and Pat showed it to them, and they loved it. And I guess the band then asked Pat, hey, we have a song for a new album. The song is called Ragnar, and it's about like a creature that attacks people, stuff like that. Can we use your movie as our video? And we'll clean it up. They digitally cleaned it up. I think they got a fresh edit of it, and just digitally cleaned it up, make it look nice. And then they edited it into a music video. Now the movie is 6 minutes. 6 minutes, 6 seconds long. The video is only about 3 minutes. Some say they excised a lot of stuff, including Eric's death scene. But the reason why I can figure that is they don't want people hanging themselves. So I can understand why they cut Eric's out there. That makes sense too. So Pat asked before he gave the permission, because it was a collaborative effort from both Eric and I. Is it cool if we do this? Like, for no money, we weren't going to charge them to use our movie. It's a silly little cult classic short film that we did for a class. It's not like Star Wars or something like that. So I was like, yeah, hell yeah. Fuck yeah, that sounds awesome. So I was like, excellent. So a couple weeks later, he sends me the link of the video, and it's great. It's Ragnar, and it's Storm the Palace, the name of the band. You can find that on YouTube also. I posted that today. as well. And I was like, oh, it was great to see the movie again with this music. And it was so cool. And I think we have an alumni magazine comes out every quarter. And I think Pat sent a message to them because they have a section on the back which says, what are certain, you can, let us know what you've been up to. And we'll put it in the alumni list. So people talk about them, getting married, having kids, getting new jobs, or if they do something else, something spectacular like that, they'll post it. So that's like, I've had a couple stories about that, like when my kids were born, when I got married, and my sister, who's also an alumnus, would post stuff about her, marriage and her kids as well. So it popped up there. So it's like news for alumni about what people are doing. So I got sent, after the video and all that stuff, the winter quarterly alumni magazine for 2022 came, and it had a section in the back that said Dylan Lang, Patrick Gibbs, and Eric Magnuson's Albright College Squirrels movie has been put into Storm the Palace's Ragnar video. So we got to mention that as well, which was kind of cool. So my sister saw that. I was like, oh, that's just it. She took a picture of it and sent it to me. I was like, oh, that's so cool. I was like, yeah, it really is. I think I sent her the video then to watch it. So around that time, I was thinking about, I was like, well, let me think about this. And I realized that 1993, 2023, that's a 30-year difference. And I know we made the movie in 1993 because I remember recording stuff in the Eric's room. And I remember digging out the videos from my room. And I remember, because by senior year, Pat and Eric and Heath and our friends, they had moved off campus, and I was the only one left in Moan. So it wasn't senior year. I know that. And it wasn't sophomore year because we had just met like in the late fall of sophomore year, and we became friends then. So I knew it was 93. So I started thinking about that, and I was like, 30th anniversary is coming up, and I just don't know what the date was going to be, because I knew we had started filming it. It had to have been in October. I almost am 100% certain it was October of 93 is when we filmed it, just because of the way the weather is and because of the leaves still being on the tree. Whereas when you get into November, they start really disappearing because of the cold, and they're just getting old and they're falling off. They've been changing colors for a month now. But the trees are still in the video, in the movie, the trees are still full colors for the most part. So it had to have been sometime in October, but I didn't know exactly when. So I said, okay, this is kind of odd. I don't want to, it's a lot harder to figure out when we filmed it than to when we actually premiered it, because I know it was for the Albright College Film Festival. It was not our final. It was our final project, but it was not our final. So it would not have been during finals week, because during finals week, not everybody sticks around for the whole thing. Depending upon how your final schedule works out, you can have all your finals done by like Tuesday, and you can leave school for Christmas break on Tuesday. Or if you're one of those unlucky few, you might have them spread out all during Monday through Friday, or you might have the first part of the week be clean and then the last part be packed with. So we want to have many people see this. So it had to have been the week before finals, which lays it to this week alone, because today in 2023, I am 100% certain that this date, December 8th, 2023, was the last day of classes for Albright College's current students, that their finals start next week and that they're going to be done by the 15th of December, because normally we spend a good portion home for Christmas break, and it was always that first sort of week. So I ended up figuring that. I looked at one of the old calendars, said this has got to be the date, is the 8th, has to be the date. I think about it more, maybe it was a little bit later, but it doesn't matter. I picked the date. It was a Wednesday, so I picked it. I said that's going to be the date. It's going to be December 8th, 1993. Don't know for sure if it is, so I'm just making it be the date. but there's a lot of stuff pointing to the fact that that's probably what it is. I'm starting to think about maybe next week is the last week of school, so maybe it would be like the 15th then. But it doesn't matter anyway. I picked the 8th, and that's it. And I messaged Pat yesterday, and I said, hey, man, that's what I plan on doing. And he's like, that's cool. Let's do this. So here we are. So I'm beginning to doubt myself now. I think maybe again more and more it's probably the 15th, but we'll go with the 8th on this one because at the same time, it's like I knew we wouldn't have stayed. Like we would seem to get off. I don't think we would stay till like the 22nd. Maybe we did. Anyway, I don't remember. But I picked the 8th. The 8th is our Albright College Squirrels Day. 30th anniversary is today. It's 30 years. Who really cares, really? It's just something fun I wanted to do. So I talked to Pat yesterday via Messenger, and he said, go for it, man. And so that's why I decided that today is Albright College Squirrels Day. But now I'd be thinking about I think it's probably the 15th. But we're not going to do that. We're going to say this is the date. End right there. End of story. Maybe they did it early so we could study for another week or so. We'll go with that. So I hope you enjoyed that oral history. I'm trying to remember if I missed anything about it. It's turned into quite a thing. You know, a lot of friends watched it. I've been showing as many people as I can, family members. When I met my wife's family and stuff like that, I told them about it, and I showed them that, I think, before, and I've been showing my work colleagues it. And it's still something I'm really, really proud of. And it was a true collaborative effort between me and Pat and Eric. And I'm lucky enough to still be in contact with Pat, though Eric has sort of disappeared off of social media, but that's fine. Absolutely fine. I'm hoping everything's good with him right now. I think the funny thing is I think I know more about Pat now than I did back in college. So that's kind of cool that's sort of the situation. So, yeah. So it's always interesting when you think back to something you created, and it also shows your age when you're celebrating the 30th anniversary of the making of a film you did in college when you were in your 20s, which means you're old. And I'm old. And Pat's old. I think Pat's older than I am by a few months. I think his birthday's in March. So that's the oral history of Albright College Squirrels. I hope you enjoyed it. Absolutely go to YouTube, type in Albright College Squirrels. You should see it. I've posted it on Facebook. Pat posted it on Facebook. I've posted a screenshot on Instagram. I posted the video on Twitter. So you can find it in any of those locations that you want. And it's also on my YouTube. It's not my YouTube page, but it is on YouTube, Albright College Squirrels. Just type that in. And probably, once this posts as well, if you type in Albright College Squirrels, this might pop up as well. So go ahead after you watch Albright College Squirrels, 6 minutes of your day. Go ahead and watch this 53 some minute discussion oral history of it. This is about how long I was expected to be. And I'm trying to remember if there's anything else I missed about it. No, I think I covered everything that I remember from the making of it. It was a lot of fun. And I still get noticed for it. So thank you, everybody who watched. Thank you, Pat and Eric, for the collaborative collaborations we did together. We should come together again and do a sequel here 30 years later. Thank you to all our friends. I can't remember all your names, but I think it is Heath and Chili and Krista. And I think that's Jeff. And I think it's the Joshes. And I want to say Sarah was in there. And maybe Mindy. as well. So thank you guys for humoring us and letting us throw a giant stuffed squirrel at your heads, or having you being chased and acting scared. And you guys did a great job of it. And thank you. And what's great was, before I started this whole 30th anniversary thing early this morning on Facebook, stuff like that, I took a look at the video again, and we had 353 views this morning. And I checked it again before I went on to do the oral history, and we have raised it to at least 20 other people have viewed it since we posted it. So thank you to those 20 who hopefully might have seen it again, hadn't seen it again, rediscovered it for the first time, discovered it for the first time, or rediscovered it after a few years. Thank you for watching, and keep watching. I hope this builds up a little bit. And, 30th anniversary, we'll see what happens in 10 years. Maybe in 10 years, when we do our 40th anniversary, we'll get around and do a maybe actual walkthrough of the college. It's so different now that who knows how that would work out. But thank you very much for everybody who helped us out on the video, to Professor Adelstein for teaching us how to use all the equipment and stuff like that, teach us about the art of cinema, to all our friends who, as I said, helped us out in the end, and of course, all the viewers, and of course, to Pat and Eric. We work well as a team, and I think we did a pretty good thing that we can be very proud of. And here's hoping that Rabies is resting comfortably with you somewhere, Pat, and out there in Seattle. And thank you. Storm the Palace. I'm sorry, I couldn't remember your name. Thank you, Storm the Palace, for using our movie in one of your cool videos, and thank you very much for that. All right, guys, I'm going to go. Tomorrow, brand new episode of Dylan Knows, talk about all kinds of crazy stuff. Okay, bye.